this week on the big show. And sorry. Okay, let me just freestyle this because I don't need to even read this. This week on the big show, we had the Oscars this week, and I went to a film festival in the Deep South. Charles Kirkland Jr. and I discussed all these things and more on what should be one of the most unpredictable hours that we've ever had. We're keeping it real with FilmGordon, episode 497. Let's just dive into it and get started. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with FilmGordon. I am Tim Gordon. I normally write a script out every week. Man, wow. It's Friday. What a week it was, man. So first, before I get started, man, I want to welcome in my dude who just kind of rides with me and we just do this entertainment journey together. It's Charles Kirkland Jr. Charles, what's going on, man?
Hey, Tim, what's happening? I'm glad to be here on this side of this after the slapping. You know, I'm ready to talk. Let's get down to business.
This is why I didn't want to do this, man. So all right, so let me just get started, man. A week ago when we were on the show, I think we recorded the show probably a couple of days earlier because I had to be down in Oxford, Mississippi for the 19th annual Oxford Film Festival, right? And I was on a jury. First time I'd ever gone to the Deep South. Charles will tell you and validate that there was a lot of, is the word anxiety is probably the word, because I grew up as a young man in the Northeast, in Newark, New Jersey. I was born within the decade of the death of Emmett Till, back in Money, Mississippi in 1955. So I'm of that ilk, Charles, that I grew up that, doing this whole movement where you would look at the Deep South, whether it was Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, these were places that back in the day you didn't want to be, right? And all my life, I've gone to Georgia and I've never been to Alabama, but this opportunity came up for me to be on the jury. And the guy who was the festival executive director of the festival reached out to me. I'm a friend. I'm like, hey man, I'll do it. But I wasn't looking forward to it because Charles knew I wasn't looking forward to it. So really? You're not looking forward to it, Charles?
Yes and no, but we'll say more no than yes.
Forward to it from a professional end because I knew what I was going to do, but I was not. Anyway, I make that face like Charles, look. But needless to say, I'm not going to bash the entire state of Mississippi because I only spend time in one area. And for the most part, my colleagues were warm and welcoming. And I got a lot of stuff accomplished professionally at this film festival. And thank you to Jim Brazel, who was the executive director, who's recently resigned and he's moved on. They put on a really good festival down there, and a lot of things that I learned or observed will come into play later on when we do the Lakefront Film Festival this August, right? But having said that, Charles, and Charles has already heard these stories, there was just this disconnect of every time I went out in public in Oxford, where I just felt that it was still 1982 in Oxford, man. It's 2022 for the rest of us here. But man, I walked into a restaurant, Charles. I'm not gonna put the restaurant out because they're not paying us. But let's just say when I walked in, I was the only Black dude in there, and the entire restaurant did like this in unison. so that was one.
Forks hitting plates, glasses clinking to the table.
A couple days later, I went to another restaurant, and as I walk in, of course, again, I'm maybe one of two that are in there that's not working in the kitchen. And ironically, everybody else, all of my colleagues, all got their food when they placed their order. There was a glitch with my order, and they were even like, "Dang, Tim, you right." And I was like, "It's gonna be all right. I'm not gonna make a fuss. I'll get my food." So every time I went out to eat, it was an adventure. And then the worst one, Charles, I think I told you this one.
The Caesar salad. You gonna tell the Caesar salad story?
There it is. And that's why, okay, Charles, you jumping ahead, man. So needless to say, I had to go, we had jury deliberations on Saturday afternoon, and they did it in downtown Oxford at a place called the Square, right? So to put this into context, right? The Square is an area that in appearance, for anybody who's old enough to have watched Mayberry RFD, like if you watched Andy Griffin town of Mayberry, the Square is kind of designed like Mayberry, right? And the University of Ole Miss, which is another story that we're not even gonna tell on this show today, because I found out where Ole Miss originated from. I'm not doing that today. But Ole Miss, their baseball team, there is the number one, they're ranked number one in all of college baseball, right? So there's a huge amount of interest for the baseball team for the University of Mississippi. And on this particular day, I think they had a game maybe within the hour. So there are probably 600-700 people on the Square, right? And my guy parks the car, Jim, the festival director. He has me and another juror in the back seat. And we get out the car. I'm the only Black dude in the Square, right? Charles, I'm not making this up. As I'm walking to the restaurant, which was literally around the corner, everybody is looking at me like I'm this oddity. I turn back and I see two little kids pointing like, ooh. I was like, whoa, right? So I get into that. Right. So as I'm walking, I see one Black dude coming my way, right? And as we do in the Northeast, like, hey, what's happening, man? And the dude just kind of walked past me as if, hey, man, don't be bringing attention to me, man. So it gets better, Charles. So I walk
at least he wasn't running towards you and then just.
So I get into the restaurant, and of course, I'm standing in the restaurant. And of course, every time I come into a restaurant, I'm telling you, I'm drawing attention. So they like, everybody's staring. And me, I meet them in the eye, and then I keep on walking because we're in the back, and there's a huge round booth where all the jurors are and all the deliberations are going on, right? So
in the back.
In the back. So I get to the back, I sit in the booth, and we're having the conversations and deliberating about our films, right? So the waitress comes out with the menu, and I'm just trying to do something light because, you're in Mississippi, you're in the deep South, there's greens and pork all over the place. I'm like, I'm just trying to keep it light. And I order a Caesar salad, right? I see a Caesar salad. I'm like, okay, I'll take the Caesar salad. I said, well, I need some chicken on the side. And then I look at the price, and the chicken on the side was $12. Now, let's put this in context, right? Because I eat out a lot, right? Now, if I'm not at a high-end restaurant, chicken on the side, $4 to $6. I talked to another young lady who lives in LA. She was like, 4 to 8. I talked to somebody else at the table who lives in Chicago. She's like, about 4 to 6, right? $12, right? I said, wait a minute. I said, this must be some super chicken. I said, is this like, y'all got a chicken shortage, or is chicken at a premium in Mississippi?
For you?
So I ordered a salad, and the guy, one of my guys, jurors, who was in the back seat with me, his name was Nate Diekman. Nate was like, well, why did you order the salad? I said, man, because it's going to make a great story on this podcast that I'm telling right now. It's like, you do it for the experience, right? So, of course, Charles, I get this salad. The chicken is about this much. And I wish I had the picture I could post, because you saw the picture, right?
Yeah.
On my Facebook page, because I took a picture of it because I was like, this is going to be a great story. And I should have had the picture ready to go. But needless to say, because since I didn't say the name of the restaurant, the salad was disgusting. It was over peppered, over salted, huge leaves. They may have put about 10 leaves in the salad, like leaves the size of the plate. It was not good at all. None of it was good. So I say all that to say, in closing, I thought that the staff of the Oxford Film Festival, they were really wonderful. Not just in the event that they may watch this, but they really were mad cool. I had a lot of fun down there. The colleagues that I met on the jury who served with me, thank you. We had some really good films that we were there. I thought that hospitality within the festival community was great. The hospitality outside the festival community, 180 degrees, it was the opposite. So yeah, and
I have to agree with Jim though, for real. Why? I mean, you're going down into the deep south and you're going to order a Caesar salad. You know that you threw that chef into a fit. He didn't know they were like, I told you not to put that thing on the menu. They don't know what a Caesar salad is in Mississippi.
Let me tell you the other thing that's interesting, because I'm glad you brought that up. Before I got down there, I made a couple of calls, and people kept saying, well, you go down here, there's this particular restaurant, because again, we're not giving out any names. But they was like, you need to hit this restaurant. And as luck would have it, Jim, the guy that drove me into the square, sent me a text one afternoon. He was like, hey, man, they had an area called the Green Room, which if you were a member of the jury or somebody who had a badge, you can go back and access and get all the food you wanted. And this particular restaurant had food that day. So, of course, they had the greens with pork in it, and they had the chicken, and they had the mac and cheese with pork in it. So as a guy that doesn't do pork, I was struggling because I don't do pork. I haven't had any.
Wait. What kind of macaroni and cheese they had with pork in it? They
had mac and cheese with pork in it, right? So I'll just Mississippi, man. Okay. So okay. I'm eating. I grabbed the greens. They had pork in it. I'm trying to eat around the pork, like that big piece of bacon. Get that out of there. I'm eating around the pork, right? And I'm still eating the pork because it's seasoned in the pork, so I can't get away from that. They had the mac and cheese. I'm kind of eating around. See, that you notice there's a lot of around the pork, right? So needless to say, I ate it. It was okay, but I was trying my darndest to try to keep these meals as healthy as possible and to stay away from the overabundance of either shellfish, which I'm allergic to, or pork, which I don't eat. So I'll just close by saying that Mississippi was it was an eye-opening experience. I learned a lot about this state, and I met some people that will be beneficial moving forward. I saw some films that I don't know. I got to talk to whoever runs the Lakefront Film Festival, but I think you will see some of those films again in August, since I am he. So needless to say, Charles, that was my weekend, as we call it in the SIP. So do you have any questions or comments about Mississippi before we move on to what happened the next night?
Well, I'm only going to assume that you will not be returning to Oxford next year because Jim has left, or
there's going to be different leadership next year. So I might be invited back, but I don't think I'll be invited back because, as all these relationships happen, it's about who you know in these situations, because they can get any critic to come and serve on a jury, but you usually build relationships with different people over years, and these folks are in position. So one day, I can't wait until the day that Charles Kirkland calls me up and tells me that he's been invited to be on the jury, and they're flying him out and putting him up for a weekend to judge movies. It's a highlight for people who do what we do. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. And as I said earlier, thank you, Jim Brazell, and the entire team at the Oxford Film Fest, Ox Film 19. So it was a lot of fun, man.
Dear Oxford Film Festival, I would like to submit my.
Charles is a nut. All right, man. So I left Oxford, Mississippi at 3:00 in the morning, from that hotel to catch a 6 o'clock flight because later that day I had to host the winners are Oscar party for the DC Film Society at the Arlington Cinema and Draft House. You notice how it all rolled off the tongue seamlessly that time?
Yeah, you had some time to practice.
So no, I didn't practice at all. I arrived in DC about 1 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, leaving Mississippi. Had time for a shower, a meal, and back in the car to head to Arlington at 4 o'clock because the Oscars started at 8. We had to do press at 4. Charles was there, so you know how this all went down. So I am tired. This is already going to be a long day, right? Before we even get to the Oscars, this is a long day, right? So we're there at the Oscar party, and a surprise to me, Charles, we had a much larger turnout at this party than I thought we were going to have, considering the fact that you guys pulled this off so late. So kudos to you and the rest of the team. Mike, I don't even know how you not.
Kiryoglu.
Thank you. I have Mike Cry in my phone, so that's how I But Mike did an amazing job, and the rest of the team, guys pulled it together, and we had almost a nearly packed house for this Oscar show that we hosted. And I don't know how many years I've done this now. It's got to be getting close to 10, because Joe Barber used to do it with Bill Henry, right?
Right.
And then Joe Barber passed, and then I took over, and then Bill Henry passed, and then Travis Hobson took over. So it's been about 10 years, if not longer, I've been hosting this show. So there was a lot of excitement. Well, actually, I don't know if excitement was the word. There was a lot of something in the room before the show even started, because, this is the first time that the Oscars have ever had 3 women host the show. It's the first.
I would define it as anticipation. Everybody was.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Anticipation. A lot of anticipation in the room. First time we've had 3 women hosts. First time they've had a host in several years.
Right.
They're coming off of 10 million viewers last year. And let's just put this in the context, right? And because this dawned on me a couple of days ago. I was having one of multitude of conversations. The Super Bowl, which just aired a couple months ago, there were 112 million people that watched the Super Bowl. Last year's Oscars had 10. The highest football event in the country, the highest entertainment or movie award in the country. There's a huge disconnect, Charles, when you're only pulling in the 10th of the audience of the Super Bowl when you're the Oscars, right? So we start the night off. I'm just going to critique the show before we get to where we're going to get to, right? The opening number, Will Packer, who and his all-black team that produced this show, shook this show up immediately. Beyonce and musicians and dancers out, dressed in yellow, somewhere on a tennis court in Compton, I thought was a great and bold open, right? After that, which I thought was really well done, we come in and we're introduced to the 3 hosts, Regina Hall, Amy Schumer, and Wanda Sykes. They kind of do what Oscar hosts do, which is poke fun at the industry, which later on in the night, we come back to bite the industry in the butt with the fun poking, but we'll get there. I thought for the most part, Charles, that the host of the show moved the show along, did a good job, absence a couple of skits, the whole one skit that went too long, the whole Regina Hall, we need to bring these people back and get a COVID test, which morphed into all of these are single dudes and these are dudes I think I have a shot at. And then the absolute, I'm going to be nice, the absolute awkward pat down of Josh Brolin, because even I was sitting there going, man, this is going on just a little too long. But
yeah.
Charles, so before I continue, man, did I miss anything between the opening of the show up to that Regina Hall piece, because I don't want you getting ahead. I just want you to focus.
I want to say in my opinion, I thought it was an affront that Beyonce could not be in the theater. I mean, I respect what she did with being in Compton and the tennis balls look that she had going on, but you know, everybody else who was performing music made it to the theater. So you know, I'm just like, what makes her so special? I don't know, but I guess she's the queen, so she can do what she wants. But other than that, okay, go ahead. And I do agree that Regina King skit was a little. The beginning of it was great up until the Josh Brolin thing, and I got like, okay, this is uncomfortable. Can guys claim Me Too? Can they jump in the Me Too movement? Because
man, see, we're not going there, man.
I'm just saying.
That's why I said, let me say this in a way, because I'm trying to be Michelle Obama today. When they go low, I'm trying to stay high today.
Hey, look, that's what I'm here for.
Right. All right. So
get down in the muck.
I'm glad you are here for that. I am not here for it, but I'll entertain. Right. So needless to say, as the show moves on, there were a couple other things that didn't necessarily work for me. Right. I will just say, as a person that does an award show, and when people say, well, you know, if you don't like it, you do your own show. Okay, I'll do my own show. The fact that The Godfather they're going to salute The Godfather. Why did you need to put hip hop music under the iconic scenes of The Godfather when you could have just played the score? I thought my head was going to explode in the room. I was like, what is happening right now? Why am I listening to All About the Benjamins and Can I Live with The Godfather? Like, why is this happening? Charles, anything on this one?
I think the Godfather soundtrack, the score is iconic. Everybody knows it when they hear it. I don't think it needs any addition to it. I think it's perfect in its composition, just the way it is. 50 years, perfect. It's been perfect for 50 years. I don't think it needs any addition to it. I agree with you on that. What were they? D-Nice, I guess felt like he had to do something, and he just
no. Stop. That's not a D-Nice call. That's a producer call. That is somebody who's in charge, who made a conscious decision that we're going to do a thing, right? So I just want people at home to understand that we know this because we do this, that there's a certain level of responsibility. Like, something cannot be added to our show if I don't approve it being added. Because if I don't like it, we're not doing it, right? So having said that, so that's number one. Number two is the in memoriam, which is really funny because Charles and I really had some real feelings on this one, because there was a show that aired February the 28th called the Black Reel Awards. If you didn't see the 22nd annual Black Reel Awards, you can go to YouTube. It's on our Black Reel Award page, right? And in the in memoriam that we did, there was an actor named Coleman Domingo that kind of delivered a script that led into the in memoriam skit, right? I mean, not skit, but the in memoriam segment.
Montage.
The montage of all the people that we've lost, this really quiet, respectful thing. And, you know, I think we've told this story on the show before, but for those who may not have heard it, I am the executive producer of the Black Reel Awards, right? And I went to our head writer now, Charles Kirkland Jr., who is sitting here with me, and gave him, you know, the instructions of what we wanted. Before we even had somebody to deliver it, I wanted it, gave him the tone that I wanted it written in, right? And Charles Kirkland will tell you that the first pass he took was not to my liking. And I came back and broke it down and gave him even more explicit instructions. Charles, am I lying when I say I want you to go watch Turner Classic Movies? They do TCM Remembers every year. I want you to, there's no script. I said, I want you to let that feeling envelop you, right? I want you to kind of live in that wistful, mournful place and I need you to write something. And Charles Kirkland, who's sitting right here, and he's heard me say this numerous times, wrote something that I thought as soon as it hit my eyes, I was like, damn, this is great, right? So I read it once. I read it twice. I came downstairs and I found the managing director of the Black Reel Awards, and I read it to her. And we both were like, man, Charles put his foot in that. I got on a meeting with the team and read it to the team in a meeting. Remember that?
Yep.
So Charles Kirkland gets a lot of credit. And then the original person who was supposed to have done the segment got busy, pulled out. And I was afraid that we wouldn't find somebody that we can match the voice to the prose, right? We were lucky that Coleman Domingo came along and volunteered to do it. And the rest, they say, is history. Because when I watched what he sent us back from what Charles wrote, and then I sent it to Charles, and then we got on a Zoom call and we watched it together, I was like, so watch this, Charles. So having said all that, let's get back to Sunday night at the Oscars, because that's where this whole in memoriam thing started. And the fact that they made a choice to make it upbeat, make it kind of celebratory. I mean, it might have been a good idea in the room, but I don't think it came across well at all. And I just thought it was weird. Charles, what say you about the in memoriam segment on Sunday?
I don't think it was a bad idea. I think it was poorly executed. I think if they had, done the soundtrack, had the voices singing, whatever, and in the background like it was, I think it would have been all right. But when they started showing them and they're up here dancing and flailing and all this stuff, I'm like, okay, now you're really detracting from what it is that you're supposed to be doing. I even like the little speeches that people threw in there, interspersed here and there. I thought those were nice little tributes. It had the potential to be something different, something like you said, celebratory, more of a homegoing service than an in memoriam. So I think the spirit was totally different than what we're used to in an in memoriam. I wasn't hating on it until, and then they had the nerve not to have the faces be seen. Instead, you're looking at the choir doing all the gyrations and everything, and you can't see who you're memorializing. So I think it was a big miss on the part of the Oscars of Will Packer Productions in this aspect in memoriam. It could have been done a lot better. And being like with all the background that you said about how we've done this in memoriam and how we know how to honor people properly, it really hurt me. It hurt me. It hurt me to watch.
Let's just say, for the record, for people watching, properly might not be the right phrase. We do it in our way.
Right.
Not to say that our way is the way, but let's just say I disagree with the tonality of it all, because again, I'm under the impression that to me, and this is the first time literally I've ever seen it done this way, right? So every other show, every other Oscar broadcast, everybody who's honoring people who have come before have done it a certain way. Now, mind you, I agree with you, Charles, that the fact that you stopped down and we make sure that Tyler Perry does a tribute to Sidney Poitier, that I forget the actress who came on and did
Jamie Lee Curtis did
Betty White, and then I think there was one more person that came in. So those I thought.
What's his face did Ivan Reitman?
Right. Bill Murray.
Ivan
Reitman, right? So having said all that, I think that those aspects of it really worked well. But I personally didn't like the whole tone of it. And like I said, man,
I think the whole thing was Will Packer was trying to make it more of an African American experience, in that we have the homegoing, which is more of a celebratory thing than the in memoriam that we're used to seeing. And I believe he had a good idea. He the execution just wasn't perfect on it.
No, I got you. I got you. So having said all of that, I think so. So let's get to the big moment of the night. Comedian Chris Rock comes out to introduce Best Documentary.
Wait. Before you go into that, let's also remember that when Regina Hall did her speech, that she had a jab that she focused at Will and Jada. Remember, Will was one of the ones that she called up to go in the back with her for the COVID test, and said that it was all right. Jada said it was all right to happen. So
right, and Will didn't get up.
Right, Will did not get up.
Right, got you. So all right, so let's get to the moment of the night. Chris Rock is coming out to introduce Best Documentary, right? And coming out to introduce Best Documentary, we don't know whether he ad-libbed or if the producers had planned for him to do a couple of skits before he would announce his award, because he is Chris Rock, by the way, and he is, as I call him, the vice president of black comedy. Dave Chappelle's the president, Chris Rock would be the president, right?
Oh, so Eddie's out now, huh?
No, because Eddie hasn't done stand-up in, I don't know, 1988, 87. So needless to say, Chris Rock gets up there and he makes a jab at Javier Bardem and Penelope Cruz. Then he moves on and makes the infamous comment about Jada Pinkett Smith, where he says he looks at her head and he goes, "I love you, Jada. Can't wait to see you in G.I. Jane 2. They put the camera on first Will Smith, who laughs. You put the camera on Jada Pinkett Smith, who rolls her eyes. And then here's the key. The camera comes back to Chris Rock and it stays in the Chris Rock position. So we don't know what's occurring out of camera range at the Smith table, right? So Rock is doing his routine, getting ready to announce his category. All of a sudden, we see a figure walking into the screen, headed toward the stage. Everybody initially in our room thought it was, this is another skit. We see a slap, we see a head, and we see Will Smith kind of smooth his jacket out and heads back with this kind of a look on his face. So for a split second, nobody knows what's happening. Like, what the heck just happened, right? I'm in the room, me and Travis Hobson, who are the hosts, are sitting next to each other like, oh, what just happened? Oh, man, that some skit that they're doing, which would have been a skit had the camera not focused back on Will Smith and the sound is muted and you can read his lips, "Keep my wife's name out your effing mouth." And then he says it again, and I go, "Oh, this is real." So now I'm on the phone like this at the show, looking for Twitter, and there's a what do you call it? There's a hashtag that is trending called what did it was as? Was it what just happened? So it goes on from there that Chris Rock, of course, is now stunned and he delivers his lines and Questlove comes up and wins, which is really anticlimactic at this point because everybody's still so fixated on Will Smith and Chris Rock and this whole incident that just occurred. So I apologize because everything that happened after that is like in a separate Oscars because it's like, because the mood and the energy in the room we were in, the energy is sucked out. I'm looking at Charles in the back. Charles is looking bewildered. No, everybody is there's no energy in the room, right? So needless to say, we go to commercial.
Before you, let me give my side of the story real quick because this is important too. At the Oscars party, when we have the parties, during the commercial break, the sound is muted so that Tim and Travis can talk. And so that they can, give trivia questions or talk about what happened at the Oscars, all that kind of stuff. I'm sitting at the board. I'm the one sitting at the board doing the mute every time they go to commercial. So when it happens, the slap happens, all the sound is cut, right? And everyone in the theater turns and looks at me like I turned off the sound. I'm like, no, it's not me. I'm not doing anything. I got my hands in the air. I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. There's no sound. What's going on? And then we see the scene with Will's lip. We're reading Will's lips because we can't hear what he's saying when he says, keep my wife's name out your effing mouth. And then it hits us. This is for real. And like you said, Questlove comes out to get his award, and nobody, I don't think anybody heard a word that man said. The fact that he picked up the Oscar is like a distant memory in our minds. It was kind of like in the background of, oh my God, what just happened? And I feel so bad for Questlove that he won that award and nobody knew. Nobody knew.
I agree, man. So let's get to the fun part, because I'm sitting in the room now, and Will Smith has been the front runner all award season for Best Actor, right? And this is the first time I can think I ever remember almost dreading the category. I'm like, oh my God, because it was 2 categories later, right? So now we get to the moment of truth. And I'm like, what happens if Will Smith wins after this? They announced the winner, and it's Will Smith. And for the first time in a moment where you should have been like, yay, Will Smith won the Oscar, I was like, oh, damn. What is getting ready to happen now? Right? So Smith gets up there, and the tears that are coming down. And again, I'm not here to as Kanye West once said, I'm not here to debate about his facial features. I don't care what you think, whether he was sincere or insincere. What I can tell you in that moment, if I was me, I'm embarrassed. And I think that's what you saw on Sunday, that he's embarrassed. You did something unspeakable, because to smack a black man in the face open-handed is unspeakable in general, right? Like if Charles and I had this conversation, if a dude smacked you in the face, that along with spitting on you are 2 of the worst things that you can ever have happen to you as a man. Those are things that you literally ball of your fist, and you got to go after somebody if they do one of those 2 things, right?
Absolutely.
And the fact that it happened on national TV in front of, watch this, in front of
16.6 million people.
16.6 million people. It wasn't 100, I was going to say millions of people. 16 million people, right? Makes it even worse. So Will Smith's crying. He's giving a speech. He apologizes, or sort of apologizes, because, this whole week has been so analyzed. My favorite was, I want to apologize to the Academy. Well, if you just want to apologize to the Academy, just apologize to the Academy. You don't, I want to apologize. I want to. So he wants to apologize to a bunch of people, to everybody but Chris Rock, right? So I told, because I had this conversation with Charles the next day, which was the start of about 3 straight days where I had to finally turn my phone off, because I was like, I don't want to talk about this no more. I'm tired of talking about it. It's the one incident that has happened recently that everybody had an opinion, right? And everybody dissected and had an opinion according to how they saw the world, right? Like, I think this, I think that. But what I know is that a couple of things, Travis. I was going to say.
Wait. I want to give you credit, Tim, because I'm going to say, before anybody else got into this, you and Travis broke it down about how everything.
Because I had to tell Travis, because he didn't know either, right?
So you broke down the whole history of this thing, going back to 2016 when Chris Rock made the joke about Jada boycotting the Oscars, and it being like him being invited to Rihanna's panties. They weren't invited, so they can't boycott. So it's no big deal. So So there had been bad blood that had gone back to that, and you were right on top of it, and that's why y'all should come to the Oscars party, because Tim will give you all the background on these kind of things when they happen.
But what I was going to say on top of that, though, is that we come to find out as the week kind of ensues that there's a lot more history that goes on. And I just literally had this conversation before we got on the show with another writer, director friend of mine. And I was basically saying, and I'll say it again here, that none of us know, right? There's a relationship that goes on between these two gentlemen and this woman. And I'm not saying it as an entanglement, but I'm saying that like in any circle, when you ride in a circle with people, we don't know. The fact that I know that I just finished reading Will Smith's book, right? And he talks about the incident when he was 9 years old of watching his father assault his mother by punching her in the temple and knocking her down, and how that moment defined his entire family's attitude toward their father, right? You know, his brother charged his father and tried to attack him. His sister goes in the bedroom and she is in a knot, an emotional knot, balled up. Will Smith does nothing, so he considers himself a coward, and he never wanted to be in a situation where he would ever be a coward again. You also look at all of the events that have occurred, the entanglement situation where Will is embarrassed on the red table, you know, in this relationship, with God knows of lots of things that married couples go through that nobody knows about, things that are internal, right? We know that Will is dealing with a lot of stuff, like most people are, right? Because we're all flawed human beings, right?
Right.
So you take all that into account into this moment, the moment with Chris Rock, the moment of him accepting the speech, even the moment of kind of being disassociated from it all, and which made me go, was him partying and with the Oscar, dancing to his songs at the after party after all this has gone down. And I'm like, I have no comment. It's just a little peculiar, right? So whether the Academy, which I think is going to come down with a really harsh penalty because they've got to send a message, A, that this is the Oscars and you just don't do that. And B, I hate to say it, but it's so true. Race plays a part in everything we do in the country. So a man who's gone 35 years and has never had a reputation of painting outside the lines is suddenly looked at as a savage because he had a hot 10 seconds of doing a thing. I don't think that's right either. But again, not my award show, didn't happen on my watch. And I'm being real. I'm trying to tell you that there's certain things that are my concern, and then there's certain things that are the concern of the Lord's, or it's somebody of a power much higher than mine. This is not my thing, man, and I'm not going to get bogged down, and I don't want you at home to get bogged down either. That's a thing that's between those two gentlemen, the woman this one of the gentlemen is married to, and the Academy where this event occurred. But last but not least, and I said we had to say this, the fact that Chris Rock, who also is a kid who's been bullied, hence you see shows like Everybody Hates Chris, and based on his own experience, and you know, listening to him talk about being mugged. I remember seeing Chris Rock when he was 18 years old doing a stand-up, and I remember me and another friend of mine at the time heckled the opening act of Chris Rock's show that night so bad that he wanted to fight us. So understanding all these elements, right? Having seen and met Chris Rock in my years in radio, admiring him, the fact that he took an open slap where 16 point whatever million people were watching, didn't retaliate, you know, as I told Charles, took that smack like a G. Because you better than me, man. I thought he was like an Avenger for a minute. That's like a super. It's something that was so foreign and odd to me that I don't know of any other man who would have handled it in that way. And I told Charles, you know, if you're a believer and you know you've heard the phrase or the scripture, read the scripture, you know, Jesus said, you know, if somebody hits you, just turn the other cheek. And I said that, ladies and gentlemen, is the personification of turning the other cheek in real time. So I commend Chris Rock right now. Again, let's understand, Chris ain't right? This woman's got alopecia. She's been talking about it for 4 years. Women feel some kind of way about their hair, right? Whether you want to acknowledge it or not, it's true. If you don't believe me, ask your mama, your sister, or the woman you're in a relationship with, and they will tell you that the relationship between women and their hair and guys and their hair is totally different. And let's not forget, Charles.
Black women and their hair. Yeah, black women.
Yes, but let's not forget, in 2010, somebody got a Black Reel Award nomination for a documentary called Good Hair. I think it was Chris Rock. So my point is yes, we're all flawed, right? So as much credit as I give Chris for taking that slap like a champ, you ain't also innocent in all of this. And again, my point is that it's an unfortunate moment. It's something that the ramifications are still yet to come because the Academy is looking into it right now. So we don't know what that means. But at some point when they make a decision, we anticipate, and I'm just going to take a guess, Charles, that, the tradition of the Academy is the person that wins the best actor in a particular year comes back the following year to introduce best actress. Let's just say Will Smith probably won't present best actress next year as a start, right? Let's also assume, and this is just me putting my producer hat on, who's the best choice to host next year's Oscars other than Chris Rock? I mean, the moment he steps out on stage, everybody's gonna go, woo!
Hey, look, he's had 2 sold-out shows since that night, and one of them he had to tell the crowd to stop cussing out Will Smith, and so he comes out as a big hero in all this. I know, like you said, he's not absence of culpability, but he certainly was the bigger man at that one moment in time.
At that moment, man. So I just say all that to say, man, that there's a lot of layers to the story, man. And I'm not, I just did a recap of what happened and our reaction in the room. I'm not here to be his judge because I'm not his judge. The Lord, the Most High, Yahweh, whatever you want to call him, Allah, that's Will Smith's judge, not Tim Gordon, not Charles Kirkland. So having said all that, man, it has just been one of the most eventful weeks. And I tell you, I don't know about you, Charles. I'm going to ask you, how many times or different people did you have conversations with about this incident?
I would have to say I had at least 4 conversations a day since then, at least 4 a day since then. It's just been crazy. And you can't, the first person I had a conversation with was my pastor on Monday morning. I would say it had to have been about 8 o'clock in the morning. He called me first, and he was like, I was like, did you see it? He was like, what? And it was just, from then on, it's just every time you turn on the television, a radio, or pick up a phone, somebody wants to ask you about that occurrence. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It's been a crazy week.
Well, here's what I would say, man. And again, this is not a who did more contest, right? But I'll just tell you this much. It got to a point where I would tell people, they would call me up because I was getting calls from all over the place. I got a call from a local radio station and I'm like, oh, snap, you guys want me on? And the producer was like, nah, was Will wrong? So you called me to ask me that, right? I had an Oscar winner call me and he was like, hey man, you've been avoiding me. And I was like, well, I'm not avoiding you. I'm avoiding what I know you want to talk about, right? So I say that, Charles, and an hour later, after the person talked to me about it, and I wasn't saying anything, the person finally went, well, I'm gonna let you go, man. You ain't got nothing to say on it. I said that at the beginning. So my point is that it's not that I did not want to address it. I think I did address it. I went on a radio station in Philadelphia, which is ironic that it was a Philadelphia radio station where the Philadelphia's favorite son did this. It's just to me, it's just a very odd situation. And I think sometimes in society, we spend too much time fixated on stuff that we can have an opinion on, but stuff that we don't really know what it is, and stuff we can't change, right? So that's kind of my hot take. And it was amusing, Charles, to go on social media all week and read all of the folks on Facebook and social media who have these internet degrees, like I got or our internet psychologists or psychiatrists, you know what I think it is. And I was like, wow. I was like, I'm gonna stay low. I never posted anything. I didn't write anything. If you needed to call me, you have my number, you could call me, but no, I didn't feel the need to talk about national news, which was Slapgate. But yeah, it was interesting, Charles. So I'll let you have the final word before we get out of here, man.
I must confess, I said my pastor was the first to call me on Monday morning, but my ex podcast partner, Michael Bryant, he texted me the night of the incident. I before I even got out of the theater, he was like, "What just happened?" And Mike is a big Philly fan. His favorite actor in the world is Will Smith. He said this, and if you had watched any of the DC Film Life podcasts, he even loves the Wild Wild West. That's how deep he is with Will Smith. So when he saw this, it was like, what was it? He was almost inconsolable about how this went down. So all I can say is, people are people. They have their high moments, they have their low moments. And if we hold, and I've said this many times before, if we hold everyone to their lowest moment, then no one will ever achieve any greatness. So it's only through those moments of pain, those moments of turmoil, that we learn how to grow and become better people. So that's all I have to say about that.
Well, and that's coming from D.L. Hughley as a saying, I guess. This is coming from the GED section. This is not coming from the GED section. This is just, I would call it the power of positive thinking, man. Right. So if you think it's a cop out that I'm not coming down harder on both these guys or the relationship with Will and his wife, I don't know. It's not my relationship. I got enough trouble keeping my house straight. Charles has enough keeping his house straight. And I'm not saying that to be funny. That's real talk. I think if people spent more time working on the insides of their own home, or as they would say biblically, you got to take the plank out your own eye before you start telling somebody about the plank in theirs. And again, I feel bad as a man for Will Smith and for Chris Rock to be placed in this situation. Whatever the dynamic is in their marriage is the dynamic in their marriage. A wise man once told me when I was really, really young, Charles, that you can never understand the dynamics of any person's marriage, any relationship. Everybody's marriage is different. Every dynamic is different. And I've seen it play out in real time, in real life, and in my own life, and just observing. So this is a huge learning lesson across the board. If you're watching me right now, think about 10 seconds and what 10 seconds can actually mean to destroy everything you built, your whole reputation. And not just Will Smith or Chris Rock. Think about you. If you're watching this, that in your lowest 10 seconds, that if you do something, are you defined by those 10 seconds? And if you think you are defined by those 10 seconds, then you need to deal with that in an appropriate way in your own life. I personally aren't ready to throw the baby out the bathwater. I think the man has done too much good work over the years. and he has entertained the masses. You've gotten jiggy with it. You know who the Fresh Prince is. You know, you've watched those movies. So if you want to define him by this moment, you can define him. I personally think that you gotta give him some grace and let these people work this situation out amongst each other. So it's not really important to us if Will Smith and Chris Rock get along and they give up a pound. What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day. It's just a bad look, a bad moment for a show that got 16 point some odd million people when the Super Bowl a month and a half ago got 110. So I'll say that to say, Charles, that's my takeaway, that this award show phenomenon that the Oscars, this grip that the Oscars have had, the numbers are telling you recently, man, that times, as Bob Dylan would say, times they are a changing, bro.
Yep. I will disagree with you on one point. I think it means a lot if for us to see Will and Chris get over this, to come to some agreement, consolation, or whatever. I think it does mean something to our community if this were to occur. So I'm not going to say dismiss it and say it doesn't mean anything. I think it would be very important to us if that were to occur. So I'm hopefully we can see that happen.
All right. Well, having said that, man, we're going to wrap up episode 497, which is a show that we're going to entitle Slapgate and the repercussions. But Charles, man, as always, thank you, sir. We're going to come back a little later on with a plus version of the show today because we got movies to review. We'll talk about that. But thank you for your time. And as we tell you every week, please see something good at the movies. Please, people, find some other entertainment other than this. This thing has been beaten like a horse that is far dead. Let it go. Let it go. Unless, watch this, unless you were part of the Rock and Smith families and y'all still dealing with it internally. But outside of that, let it go. All right, man. We'll see you guys on the other side next week for whatever happens sexy next week. We'll be back with it here. You guys take care and enjoy your day. Charles Kirkland, good job, bro.